In this century, great strides have been made toward the goal of subverting our republic into a democracy. The foremost tactic of the subverters is subversion of language. By calling America a democracy until people thoughtlessly accept and use the term, the totalitarians have obscured the real meaning of our principles of government. That is a summary of my report on a constitutional republic, not a democracy.
Welcome back to Notify America. We have multiple pressing stories to get to, stories that include an update on the city whose mayor says they are beyond the breaking point with illegal migrants, that being New York City. Well, they just came up with a new solution, they say, launching a new program that the mayor says will help solve the issue. Wait till you hear this. Also, an update on election politics. Where are the polls right now? Who's up? By how much? Trump, is he still beating the pants off President Biden? We'll show you. And our man Tucker Carlson, where's Tucker? Well, apparently he's getting ready for the interview of a century. We have the details and more stories from around the world that matter, that corporate media doesn't want to touch. But before we get started, thank you for liking and sharing these videos. It really helps me out. Also, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss these daily updates. The Biden administration launched the first round of its retaliatory strikes on Iranian bases in Iraq and Syria this weekend. 85 total airstrikes, none of them, though, crossing Iran's red line. Iran had said, hit Iran soil or any Iranian citizen, and it is war. Well, thus far, Biden hasn't done that. Instead, he bombed 2 other sovereign countries, killing civilians in the process. Terrible. RFK Jr. posted this on X about the response, quote, "This escalation would not have been necessary if we hadn't put our brave young service people in the crosshairs of these Shia militias. Militias that exist only as a legacy of our illegal war in Iraq. In the same way that the U.S. would not tolerate Russian forces in Cuba and Russia would not tolerate NATO forces in Ukraine, Iran doesn't tolerate U.S. forces on its border." Now, it's good that he didn't attack Iran proper, but all of this just seems so unnecessary. Think about all the money we spend over these tiny skirmishes, how much money those 85 missiles, launching those 85 missiles, putting those aircraft in the sky, risking people's lives, all of this just for these tiny little outposts. That's what RFK is saying, and he makes sense. In another story, where is Tucker Carlson? According to reports coming out of Russia, Tucker's been spotted in Moscow for what's rumored to be the most important interview in recent memory. We've known Tucker wanted to interview Vladimir Putin for years, ever since the Ukraine-Russia war broke out. He's wanted to do that interview, get Russia's point of view from the most censored person in the world, because realize Western media, Western countries try their damnedest to not let their citizens hear from Vladimir Putin directly. They've banned RT, Russia TV, in the US and in Europe. If you watch corporate media, they'll talk about Vladimir Putin, how he's evil, how he's a dictator and a thug, but they rarely let you listen to him speak. You have to go on social media and seek clips out. And 2 years ago, Tucker got close to having that interview while he was still working with Fox News. He had an open channel, apparently, to the Kremlin trying to schedule it. At least that's how I recall it. And according to Tucker, the NSA broke into his Signal account, an app that's marketed as being secure, and got a message to him that, we don't want you doing this interview. Here's Tucker in his own words explaining how badly the U.S. government didn't want him interviewing Putin. Watch this.
Hiding anything. I don't have a secret life. I'm pretty upfront. And some people like it and some people don't, of course. But I'm not hiding anything. But I was definitely hiding my plan to go interview Putin just because it's an interview.
So how did that happen?
Business.
How do you know the NSA broke into your Signal?
Because they admitted it.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Like, can you tell us about that? Like, how did you find out?
I got a call from somebody in Washington who would know, just trust me, so I went up there for another reason, but this person said, are you going to come to Washington anytime soon? This was a year and a half ago. And I was like, yeah, actually, I'm going to be up in a week. Meet me Sunday morning. So weird. Like, who does that? Just text me. You know what I mean? Just text me. No. So I go and this person's like, and this is someone who would know, are you planning a trip to go see Putin? This was the summer before the war started. And I was like, how would you know that? I haven't told anybody. I mean, anybody, not my brother, not my wife, nobody. And just because, it's one of a million things you're working on. But that was one of them. I want to go interview. Why wouldn't I want to interview Putin?
Of course.
I want to interview Xi. I want to interview everybody, right? That's kind of my job.
We want to get Kim Jong-un on here one day.
Of course. We met him.
You did?
Yep.
Oh, we got to talk about that after. But
super interesting. But anyway.
Holy shit.
How would you know that? Because NSA pulled your text with this other person you were texting. How did you know that? And so I was intimidated. I'm embarrassed to admit, but I was completely freaked out by it. I called a U.S. senator who I know, not that well, but it seems like a trustworthy person. And I told him the story. I said, I just want to tell you this. And then I went on TV on Monday and I'm like, this happened. And so they had, in Congress asked NSA, and NSA is like, yes, we did this, but for good reason. What would be a good reason to read what? But the head of NSA, it's fine. Because everyone's in on it. Republicans and Democrats are all in on it. And by it, I mean the assumption there's no privacy whatsoever, that they have a right to know everything you're saying and thinking.
That shit's scary.
And that's just not a right as far as I'm concerned. By the way, if you have no privacy, you have no freedom. Freedom is predicated on privacy. It's like none of your business.
You don't even think about that.
In another story, the illegal migrants who were involved in attacking 2 NYPD cops were arrested, and then they were let go, released without bail the following day, all while the attack, a violent attack, was caught on video. NYC DA Alvin Bragg, the same DA, by the way, who charged Donald Trump for paying Stormy Daniels off, he had these alleged criminals in jail. They were caught on video red-handed, and he let them go. Assaulting an officer is a serious charge. If any of us ever did that, you'd be looking at up to 10 years in prison. So these 5 people were released, and they're now heading for the Golden State, for the great state of California. Why go there? Well, when asked why he would let them go, he said, quote, "In a court of law, our profound obligation is to make sure we have right people charged with the right crimes. I don't think New Yorkers want to charge the wrong person," unquote. Listen to this CNN segment talking about this, when their viewers actually got a moment of real information, truthful information for a change. Watch this.
There is this 1%er, criminal element that looks at a different opportunity here. These individuals, I went over their rap sheets yesterday, multiple charges, grand larceny, robbery, attempted robbery, grand larceny. This particular crew operated on mopeds and scooters. They were doing organized retail theft. They were doing snatches on the street, iPhones, iPads, clothing, so on and so forth. One of them that they are still seeking has 10 charges on one day because he's part of a pattern that's been going on. And I'm looking at the dates that their arrest started, which is probably close to when they got here. They've only been here a couple of months. So what the detectives are telling me is they have crews here that operate in New York, do all their stealing, then go to Florida to spend the money and then come back. And I'm like, well, why don't they just stay and steal in Florida? And they said, because there you go to jail.
Oh. Wow. Great reporting. Keep us posted on this.
Now, in response to this and the crisis overall in New York, we've heard the mayor, Eric Adams, come out multiple times and basically scream for help from the White House to do something to stop the flow, how their shelters are completely overfilled, they don't have anywhere for them to sleep, not enough food for them to eat, how migrants are literally going homeless and hungry in many cases as they're just over capacity there. Well, Mayor Adams just launched a new program to help solve the issue, he said. Is he building a wall or calling in the National Guard to prevent more illegal migrants into the state? Nope. Instead, they just launched a $53 million program, brand new program, that hands out prepaid credit cards to migrant families. Watch this.
Well, questions being raised tonight about a new pilot program that'll give migrant families a reloadable prepaid credit card to buy food and baby supplies.
All right, it would replace the food boxes given to asylum seekers staying in hotels. Fox 5's Jessica Formoso has more on how it would all work.
Some migrant families will soon be given prepaid credit cards to buy food and baby supplies. The mayor's office says the city is partnering with Mobility Capital Finance to launch a more cost-effective program.
Now, there's been a lot of response to this new program. A lot of people, a lot of New Yorkers are coming out opposed to it, thinking it's just adding fuel to the fire, right? Well, Rapper 50 Cent was one of those people. He blasted the mayor saying, quote, maybe Trump is the answer after all. Saying, what the F, Mayor Adams? Call my phone. Call my number. I don't understand how this works. Somebody explain it to me. I just can't explain this. I'm stuck. Maybe Trump is the answer after all. In another story, Donald Trump continues to dominate in the polls, kicking the pants right off Grandpa Joe and Nikki Haley, and the media is beginning to turn on the president. They see the writing on the wall, folks. Here's the most recent numbers from Real Clear Polling. In the general matchup, look at these numbers. Trump leads in almost every new poll. Only this Quinnipiac poll has Biden up by 6, but all the others, for the most part, has Trump leading. And these aren't right-wing polls. They're not MAGA polls. These are mainstream polls conducted by CNN showing Trump up by 4. A Reuters Ipsos poll has him up by 6. A Harvard-Harris poll, Trump's up by 6 as well. But in the last 2 weeks, Biden's closed the margin a bit. You can see it here. Trump really had opened a giant spread for a while, but it's beginning to shrink. In the Real Clear poll of polls, taking the average, taking all the polls and combining them, Trump's leading by 1.8 still. But the important thing, right, isn't the national polls, it's the battleground states. The race comes down to just a handful of states. Well, how about today? Take a look at this. In Georgia, today, right now, the most recent polling, Trump is up in Georgia, leading by 8 points in both the two-way race and the five-way race. If the third-party candidates are included, Wisconsin, another battleground state that Trump really needs to win, up by 3. But in Pennsylvania, Biden's up in both the two-way race and in a four-way race if you include RFK and Jill Stein. This is Franklin and Marshall poll. It's got Joe up by 5. But overall, look, you'd much rather be the Trump campaign right now than the Biden campaign. Not to mention, there's a big elephant in the room, right? That being what they do with Joe Biden, what they actually do with him during the debates, on the campaign trail. What does he do? Does he actually go out campaigning? We all know what he looks like, what he sounds like when he's out there in public speaking off the cuff. He can't hide in the basement like he did in 2020. He had the coof as an excuse, but this time, he's got no excuse. Well, take a listen to Van Jones the other day on CNN telling the Biden team to just keep him hidden. Keep him out of sight. You can't make this stuff up, folks. Watch this.
If I were Biden, I would stay hidden, and I'll tell you why. He doesn't inspire confidence, and he's not a great messenger for himself.
All right, that wraps up this episode. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.